In this lesson, we're looking at a section of the song Handle with Care by the Traveling Wilburys. Now, last week we took a look at the introduction to the song, so if you're interested in that instead, you can check out this video. This time we're going to focus on the pre-chorus of the song, the section that features Roy Orbison's singing, classic stuff. Now, it seems to be the section of the song with the most controversy, specifically with regard to the chords that are being used. I mean, even for me, I spent years and years playing this song incorrectly. And you can check any number of tabs or the comment section on the YouTube videos that feature this portion of the song, and you'll see the discussion happening. The confirmation for what actually happens in this section of the song has to be left up to Jeff Lynne of ELO fame. Of course, also one of the Wilburys, aka Otis Wilbury. Almost any live performance video where you can see Jeff Lynne playing this song is an excellent reference for this lesson. I found the Concert for George footage particularly helpful when preparing this. First, let me give you the abbreviated version so that you can just use these chords if you wanted to play and accompany yourself, just like we mentioned. If you're going to play these open position chords, here are the chords that you're going to use. You're going to use a G major, a G augmented, C major, and then a D major. So it's just those 4 chords. And again, we're looking at this over the section of the song with the lyrics, "I'm so tired of being lonely, I still have some love to give, won't you show me that you really care?" So let's break down these fingerings first. If you're not familiar with these open position chords, I would guess there's probably just one that maybe is a little bit unfamiliar because that's the one where the controversy comes in. But first, we're playing a G major, and you'll notice we're just using our 4th and 3rd fingers to play the chord. And what we're going to do is we're still strumming all 6 strings, but you'll notice that the 5th string, the A string, is muted, and we're muting that just by using our 3rd finger. Now, the reason that we want to play this fingering is because it's going to leave our 1st finger available to play the augmented chord that comes next. So this is a G major, then we're going to play a G augmented. Has a little bit of a different sound there. And the way we're doing that is we're just placing our 1st finger on the 1st fret of the D string. Unique sounding chord there. Then you have an open position C major and your open position D major. And here's how it fits over that section of the song. I'm so tired of being lonely, I still have some love to give, won't you show me that you really care? And back to your G major, and then we kind of go into the next section of the song. Now again, we mentioned that G augmented is the one that perhaps can be a little bit confusing. We're going to dig into that in just a second after we look at Jeff Lynne's part. But if you were just going to play this song maybe at tempo, could sound similar to this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to look at exactly what Jeff Lynne is playing in some of these live performance videos. Now, like I said, this seems to be an effective way to figure out what's going on with that 2nd chord because there's a lot of conversation that happens about it. Is it a G? Is it a G augmented? Is it a B7? And again, you'll see that in the comment section on videos or other discussions. But it's helpful to see this performance video because it 100% clears up what's happening in the song if we find it difficult to hear what's going on. Of course, it's always great to hear and try to determine what's happening with the chords or the melody. But if we have performance video available to us, why not use it and it makes an excellent reference when you're trying to learn something or practice something. So here's what Jeff Lynne actually plays. Again, I referenced the Concert for George just because that's a great one where you can see his hands, but there are other ones as well that you can confirm this too. So he's actually not using those open position chords that we learned before. Those are the chords that are happening, but he's playing closed positions. In other words, small sections of bar chords, we could say. So the first chord that he uses is the top section of a G major bar chord in the E shape. So if you know your bar chords, you take an E chord, move it up 3 frets, and you have a G major. But what we're going to do here is we're just going to use the top section of that chord. So from the 4th string, the D string, all the way to the high E string. And the fingering for that would be 5th fret on the D string, 4th on the G, and then 3rd on both the B and E strings. That's the top section of your G major chord. Now to get to the G augmented, you're going to move up 1 fret, and then we're going to bring our fingers over 1 set of strings. So now your 3rd finger will be on the 6th fret of the A string. Then we go 5th fret of the D string, and then 4th on both the G and B strings. And you're not going to be using the high E, so that's muted. So if you compare those two voicings, you can hear the difference between a major and an augmented chord. So a very unique sound, right? Now the next two chord shapes that he uses are sections of an A-shaped bar chord to match for the C and D major chords. So again, if you took an A shape, moved it up 3 frets, you have a C major bar chord. If you moved it up 2 frets after that, you have a D major. But what he does is he doesn't play that low root. He's actually just using the middle strings on the guitar, just that small section, the triad of the chord. And we're going to do that by using the D, G, and B strings, just right in the middle. And you can play it with your 3rd finger, as if you were playing the bar chord, but you just take the bar off. So here's your C, and then 2 frets up is the D. Now to put that section over the lyrics, here's what it looks like when it fits. I'm so tired of being lonely. I still have some love to give. Won't you show me that you really care? And then we just end on that G major again. If we brought it up to tempo at rhythm, maybe it would look something like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. What might be the cause of some of the discussion regarding this section of the song? Well, there could be any number of reasons, but in my opinion, I think it has to do with what's unique about an augmented chord combined with what we hear the bass player doing in the song. Let me show you what I mean. First of all, let's think about what actually is happening inside of an augmented chord. And to do that, let's take a look at a triad, a major triad. So this is the formula for a major chord. It's the 1, 3, 5 of the scale. In other words, those are the numbers of the actual notes in the scale. So if we were looking at the scale G major, because we're talking about G chords here, it's a good example. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. So if you were to take the 1, 3, and 5, you can hear that's a major arpeggio. What notes are those? That's G, B, and D. And those are the exact notes that you find inside a G major chord. If you were to play the full chord, G, B, D, G, B, G. So those three notes are inside the G major. Now, to make a chord augmented, we actually take that number 5 and raise it by a semitone, a half step. So now instead of 1, 3, 5, we would have 1, 3, sharp 5. Looks like this. 1, 3, sharp 5. Sounds a little bit different, right? Now, where would the 5 be in our G major chord, that open position? Well, your 5 is that open D note. And remember, how did we make the G augmented? We played a D sharp, first fret, so we raised the D 1 fret, 1 semitone. It changed from a 5 to a sharp 5. And there's that augmented sound. Now here's what's interesting about why this fits so perfectly over this section of the song. When we're listening to Roy Orbison's vocal line, we're trying to find a chord that matches the melody. So when we listen to the melody, this is similar to what we hear. I'm so tired of being. So Roy Orbison's vocal line climbs up that chromatic line, going from the D to the D sharp and then to the E. How does that match over the chords that we're playing? G major has a D note in it, G augmented, the D sharp, and how do we get to the E? That's inside of the C chord. So those chords match the vocal line, and you can hear that little chromatic climb inside the chords. Instead of recommending a G augmented chord, many people will say you have to play a B7 over that section of the song. In other words, it would look something like this. I'm so tired of being lonely. Now, why is it that people are looking for that B7? And in my opinion, here's what it comes down to. It's, again, that melody line of the vocals. We're looking for a chord that has a D sharp in it to match Roy Orbison's vocal line. And what note do you find inside of a B7? Notice where your first finger is on the D string first fret when you play an open B7. Look at the comparison between a B7 and the G augmented. Which finger stays the same? It's that D sharp right on the D string. That's the different sound between a B7 and a G augmented, but that D sharp is still inside the chord. Here's how we confirm that we're not actually moving to a B7 in that section of the song. It has to do with what the bass player is doing. When you hear the bass line over those two sets of lyrics, I'm so tired of being lonely, I still have some love to give, the bass player stays on the root of a G chord, a G, for those 2 bars. I'm so tired of being lonely, I still have some love to give. So by him staying on that G, we can confirm that we don't move to a B7 because there's no G inside of this B7 chord. You'll find an F sharp, but you won't find a G in that chord. So the best thing to do then is to find a G type chord with a D sharp in it. And what chord would that be? You got it. It's a G augmented. And that's how that comes about. Now the third phrase in the pre-chorus provides a little bit of confusion as well. Let me show you why. Sometimes you'll see people say, well, you stay on a G chord for the first two phrases in the pre-chorus, but then you move to a B7 for the third phrase. So, I'm so tired of being lonely, I still have some love to give. Won't you show me that you really care? They're saying that section you move to a B7. Now, why is it that we hear that happening? Well, again, we're going back to what the bass player is doing. So the bass line stays on a G for 2 bars for the first 2 phrases. I'm so tired of being lonely, I still have some love to give. But when the bass goes to the third phrase, he does play a B note. Won't you show me that you really care? And it's a great thing to do because he's helping build into the next section of the song. So you can see him climbing that scale. So our ear is looking to match a chord to that note that the bass is doing. And it seems to fit really well because we want to hear something climb into the next section of the song. And like I was telling you before, this is what I did wrong for years and years playing this song. I used to just play chords that followed that bass line over and over. So you can hear that doesn't exactly match up, but obviously I didn't do enough practice early on when I was learning this song a long time ago. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to follow that bass line a little bit. So we may think, well, we got to use a B type of chord to match the bass line. But again, we're going to see that that's not actually the case. Let me show you. So although we hear the bass player move to that B root note, we're not actually changing to a B7. Remember what we saw Jeff Lynne do in the live performance? He doesn't change any of the chords for that third phrase. He's still playing a G augmented. So why does this work? Think about the notes that we said are found inside of a G augmented. 1, 3, sharp 5 in G major. 1, 3, sharp 5, G, B, D sharp. So the bass player is just playing another note inside of that G augmented chord. Instead of playing the root, the bass player moves to the third of the chord. That B is inside of your G augmented. Let me show you one more crazy thing about this part of the song before we move on from this section. I've found chord charts for this song that mention to play a B augmented chord for that third phrase in the pre-chorus. So why would you ever see a chord chart that says change it to a B augmented? Well, again, we're hearing what the bass player is doing, so we're trying to go to some type of chord that fits over his bass line. But if you notice, the same notes are shared by both a G augmented and a B augmented chord. This is pretty cool. Again, we said 1, 3, sharp 5. So in the key of G, G, B, D sharp. Let's apply that now to the key of B. Can move up. Let's figure out what the notes would be there. 1, 3, sharp 5. What notes? B, D sharp, G. Now wait a second. B, D sharp, G, G, B, D sharp. Those are the same notes according to our ear. Of course, if you were to be technical, they would have a different name in the key of B. Be B, D sharp, and then F double sharp. But our ear doesn't care what the name of the note is. It still hears the same note. So B augmented and G augmented share the same notes. So if you ever see a chord chart that tells you to play B augmented in this section of the song, it's okay because it still matches what Jeff Lynne is playing. Now, why is this so cool? I mean, I know we looked at a quick version of the chords. We talked about the way Jeff Lynne is playing it, and then we had this extended discussion of what was happening and why it's happening. To me, it's just great to see an awesome song like Handle with Care use this interesting chord progression, especially right in the middle. I mean, it's cool to find an augmented chord and see how it's following the vocal line so well. But I think what else is interesting, again, this is the section of the song featuring Roy Orbison. And if you think about it, everybody's looking for his unique voice on that part, that section of the song. But you'll find Roy Orbison's voice over the top of another augmented chord in his song Crying. And that's in D. There's that augmented chord. So I think that's pretty cool. I mean, his voice just matches so well with that section of the song. I feel like with that connection, I mean, who knows if his contribution to the song must have been that pre-chorus. I'm not sure, but I think that's a cool little fit there. Hey, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I definitely enjoyed putting it together. I found it to be an interesting topic, and I think it nicely illustrates the point as well that we have so much content available to us when we're learning guitar. Definitely take advantage of as much of it as possible. Look at performance video and concert footage, not just as entertainment, but also as excellent resources when you're learning a song. So if you're trying to find a part to a song, you're trying to get it down, look for your favorite artist, look for someone else performing it, and see if you can determine what's going on. Can you see their hands? Can you see the rhythm that they're playing? The visual aspect of it may help you figure out what's happening in the song. In addition to that, after you see them do it, ask why did they do it and what makes it work. Before you go, be sure to hit that like button to help out the channel and subscribe for more videos just like this, and I will see you in the next one.